Concord is the biggest video game failure of all time, and this is what happens when companies don't listen to the customers they have. But now we're finding out that Sony is actually screwed because of this title, because now PlayStation Live Service games are being canceled left and right. Before I get into the topic, though, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, what makes this situation even more hilarious than it already was is because of Marvel's Rivals' massive success. When Concord came out, and of course it died in 2 weeks, the mainstream media was trying to say, oh, people aren't really looking for hero shooters anymore. It's a saturated space and it's going to be really hard for games to break through. And then Marvel's Rivals came out. It had 20 million players in only 2 weeks and everybody's playing it. Everybody's loving it. Now, yes, the Marvel IP is very massive and you have all different kinds of people trying to play this game. People who like the comics are playing it. People who like the movies are playing it. Gamers in just general are playing the game. But if it was a crappy game, nobody would be playing it, even if it is free to play and it is not poorly monetized. I know that, NetEase does not have the best reputation and I do not really like them as a company, but I do have to give them credit. The 33 heroes, which is a massive amount to have at launch, were all free. The only thing you had to pay for was if you wanted the premium battle pass, which of course is not required, and then individual skins if you wanted them, and there is a wide variety of those, but there's also a ton of maps. Only a month after release, they released new maps and new characters, and overall it went very well, and that truly is a prime example of it's not the market that is the problem, it is the companies and their creations that are the problem because Sony put so much money towards Concord. Apparently, as far as we know, $400 to $700 million, which is crazy to think about. And if they had put a little bit more time and effort into the game, they would have at least been able to keep it alive this long, but it died in only 2 weeks and they got what they fucking deserved. But a few years ago, Sony, sensing a ripe up opportunity, decided to aggressively expand into the live service space. I do not think live service games are inherently bad, but I do think that when you have a company that is not listening to their customers, almost all of those games are going to fail. I mean, Sony has another live service hit just from last year, and that is Helldivers 2. It was very popular at first. Now, a lot of the hype ended up dying out because of the controversy surrounding the game and the way community managers and moderators were acting, but it still was very successful for them for a long period of time. And if they had kept that momentum up, it would still be a mega hit, but it's not really anymore, and they got what they fucking deserved there too. Though it says this was confusing for fans as the majority of publishers' first-party studios are renowned for their single-player games. I do think it is good to have a wide variety of titles on the market, but I will always choose a single-player game over a live service if the content is on equal ground. Sony's decision to aggressively expand into the live service space was confusing to fans, as the majority of the publisher's first-party studios are renowned for their single-player games. I don't know why they repeated it here. I think that the ChatGPT messed up. Nevertheless, Sony persisted in its live service push and occasionally found success, most notably with Arrowhead's Helldivers 2. Having one success versus 50 failures isn't really a good look, though the biggest shift in priorities came after the release of Concord, the debut title of Firewalk Studios. Despite the expensive cinematics and marketing from Sony, there never seemed to be a large amount of interest in Concord. It was a new IP. It was priced at $40, which is what Overwatch launched at 8 years ago. That was a big fail. It didn't have a lot of maps. It didn't have a lot of heroes. And then you have to add in the DEI elements. A lot of gamers are boycotting these types of games right now. And when you have characters with he, him, she, her, they, them, z, zer pronouns, and you're talking about how they're oppressed within the game world, yeah, that's going to be a bit cringe, and a lot of people are going to see those screenshots and those clips on social media, and they're going to be like, you know what, I'm not going to spend $40 freaking dollars on this game. It's really Sony's fault for monetizing it poorly, for allowing activists to run rampant within this studio, because keep in mind, they did not initially own Firewalk. They went out of their way to purchase them thinking this was going to be the next like behemoth IP, and it wasn't, and that's how they spent so much money. But they also didn't release all the content they should have at launch. We know for a fact, judging by the 1 hour long credits that Concord has, you can still find them on social media and like on YouTube and X, they had a whole entire single player mode. They had a whole campaign, and they didn't end up coming out with that. They're probably going to just reskin it and repurpose it for another game that will come out in 3 years because of the amount of money that was spent, though they didn't release that. If they had launched that alongside the multiplayer for $40, well, then I would say, okay, you're getting more bang for your buck, but they didn't. And I think it's because they knew, judging by the initial reaction, it was going to flop. Though, according to Jeff Grubb, the journo who steals people's scoops, the recent God of War and Bend Studio cancellations are a direct result of Concord's failure. I would never want a God of War live service title. It's just not something that I would ever go out of my way and ask for and say, oh, hey, these companies should definitely make something like this. And on an episode of Game Mess Decides, he addressed the recent cancellation, saying this happened because of Concord. This should be clear. That's what I've been told. Sony has been shell-shocked by Concord, and now they're going around to every studio and they're reassessing every single project. Yeah, look at how much fucking money they spent, but they also have a lot of other live service games in the works, like Marathon, if that even ever really comes out, and then Fair Games, which is, again, another, from what we understand, DEI focused title. You have people going around and eating the rich and destroying what the rich have built up within this world. Whatever the context of the situation is, we've got one awful trailer to judge, and it got ratioed to hell and back, but Sony deserves what they've gotten. This is what happens when you just treat gamers like walking wallets and you're not giving us a good, high-quality experience. And like I mentioned, Sony shut down Firewalk Studios, but initially we were hearing it cost $400 million to develop. Then we heard it was above $500 million, and it really doesn't matter because that is an insane amount of money to spend on a brand new IP. I don't know why they would ever think that would turn out well for them. Sony is the largest company within the gaming industry, so I get that they have to take risks occasionally, but a $500 million risk is quite a lot, at least in my opinion, and clearly the opinions of millions and millions and millions of other gamers. But I can't say I'm very surprised. A lot of gamers right now are boycotting live service games. They're boycotting Sweet Baby titles, games that are centered around DEI, and people are just not really going out of their way to purchase games based on like company loyalty anymore. And I think that that is something that is not really understood within the industry right now. Look at BioWare. I used to absolutely love BioWare games. They have so many amazing franchises, but then I was like, I'm not going to sit here and just give BioWare a million free passes with Veilguard because they've made some good games in the past. Everyone is roasting Obsidian right now because of Matt Hansen's crusty white dudes comment, and suddenly their Steam community hub being like removed or disabled, which is insane. People are not looking at PlayStation going, I'm just going to buy this because it's Sony. And this is something companies are going to have to very quickly realize, especially if they want to ever get back to making money. But I, of course, do think we are going to see a shift away from live service games in a couple of years, though it's going to take a while. Look at how long development times are. They're not just going to cancel every single live service game that's in the works. They're going to keep the ones in development that they think could be very successful, that they've already dumped a lot of money into. And I do think that in a couple of years, we probably are going to see a lot of studios shift away from live service. And Concord is a major reason why. It's the biggest failure in the video game industry of all time. And I think it's hilarious. And I'm just happy to see that Sony got what they deserved. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.